Okay, welcome back, friends of the Chasing Easy podcast. I have a really special guest, special and dear to my heart today, and we're going to share a story that's going to touch many of you. But you're on Chasing Easy, which is life is easy, the choices we make are hard, and that's a quote from my husband, Ron Leet. And you're listening in on everyday conversations with people who have an everyday, I'm going to stop this recording. I screwed up. Hold on. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Chasing Easy. And in this episode, I'm talking to a very, very dear friend of mine who I have known for, Terry, 45 years?
Or better.
We'll stick with 45. She's one of those friends where you can never get rid of her because she knows too much about you, and vice versa. But with this podcast, and especially in the month of October when this is getting recorded, it won't play until December. But we're recording in the month of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and Terry has got a story to share that I really want you women to pay attention to. And we have the ability to self-check and to do some intervention on our own, but most of us don't. And so for the listening audience, I just want you to listen to Terry's story as it unfolds and just really pay attention and take better care of yourself than you do everyone else so that you can later take care of everyone else. All right. And don't forget to like and share the podcast, hashtag Chasing Easy. And let's get started, Terry. So thanks, first of all, for being a guest. I appreciate that. You didn't really have a choice. Let's just be real.
True.
And I really want to start with in your journey of when maybe you started recognizing something different that you needed to pay attention to that brought awareness that this is a little bit more than what I think it should be. Can you walk us through the discovery?
Well, early on, when I first started getting my mammograms, I found that I was very cystic to begin with. And this was before I got very ill in 2011. So I was very diligent in checking myself. I was diligent in getting my mammograms annually. And I followed through with everything. If I felt there was a cyst or something that could cause concern, I immediately had it checked. I had them drained and tested. And then I became very ill, as you know. And
Yes.
I was put on a series of vast medications that were immunosuppressants. And the side effects of those drugs were the high probability of cancer, of getting cancer. And I was on them for about 6 or 7 years. And I still got my mammograms. I still had some cysts that would pop up, and I had them removed. But something inside of me, this was about in September of 2017, October 2017, after roughly 6-7 years of the medications, that just a gut feeling that said, you've got to stop these drugs. Is the cure worse than the ills, or do you need them any longer? And I spoke with my doctor.
Wait a minute. Because you just said something there that's really important, because a lot of folks are on medications and maybe aren't really paying attention to what their body is telling them.
Yep.
And so you said something about, is the cure, can you repeat that? Is the cure greater than the
is the cure greater than the ill? Meaning they're telling me drugs I will never cure my diseases, but these are putting it at bay and making them remiss so that I don't have the difficulties of what the diseases could do to me. However, there's no telling at that point, would I still not be remiss without the drugs? Would I get worse? Would I go back in the hospital? Would I go through all of it all over again? It was a choice to make. I didn't know. I knew about that ill. I didn't know what would happen if I continued taking these drugs. And I got to tell you something. This is where my belief in God comes in. What
Okay.
all of this, why I get that feeling that said, you can't take these drugs anymore? It wasn't a financial burden. It wasn't
Mhm.
that I didn't have insurance. It wasn't that I just felt so great all of a sudden. I mean, I knew all about my diseases and my health. And it is just some feeling came over me and said, stop taking these. And I
So
did.
you didn't really have any symptoms then. It was just
No,
that still small voice that said, I
correct.
need you to pay attention to what I'm telling you.
Yep.
But and then I'll let you continue. In 2011, so at what age were you when you first realized that cyst was a normal part of your mammograms?
Actually, it was earlier on. 2011 is when I got sick, and that was in the
Okay.
earlier part of 2011. I was 49 going on 50. So as soon as I got my first mammogram, I noticed a cyst, or they did. Okay. And so I want to say that was as early as right after I gave birth. So
Okay.
I was in my 30s and 40s. The reason I started getting the mammograms a little earlier on is I have one aunt who had breast cancer. Even though she didn't have genetic testing done, and I didn't have it in my mom never had it. No sibling, my sister didn't have it. But because I was so cystic and I had one aunt who did, they started the mammograms a little bit sooner on me than they do other women.
And do you know, and I know that you're not a doctor, but do you know what is the age now where they recommend that you start getting an annual mammogram? Is it still 50?
I think it is, Treese. And I mean, I find that just horrible. I find it horrible that they are, they make people wait so long for colonoscopies. I think that
Mm,
both these type of cancers, if we tested earlier on, are far more preventable. And
mm,
yet they won't do it. Oh no, you're too young. Well, the young are not immune. Okay.
yeah.
This These diseases don't discriminate. So I'm totally
And
against that.
you just made me remember, I believe that it's 40 for mammograms, it's 50 for colonoscopies, unless you have a
Uh-huh.
family history of colon cancer, which is,
Correct.
where I fall.
Right.
Okay, so
Right.
sorry. So you had no symptoms. You heard
Yep.
this still small voice that said you can't take these
Yep.
medications anymore. And what you're referring to there is what I have heard called medically induced illness. So what that means is maybe you would not have had the breast cancer had you not been on this medication. So the
That
side effects are
correct.
just incredible for
That's
most.
correct.
Okay.
And I can
All right.
elaborate more there. So the voice, that told me, and I listened to it, and I talked with the doctors, and they said, well, what could happen. And I said, yeah, actually I do know. But
Mhm.
what I don't know is if I continue to take this med, what will happen. So I ended the regimen in October of 2017. I was due to get my mammogram on like January, February of 2018. I got the mammogram, and I'd been through enough of them that I was sitting outside a little too long. I knew that,
Mm,
and right then and there, I said, I got breast cancer. That medicine gave me breast cancer. And I was sitting there thinking that, and I am not, a hypochondriac or, you know,
no, you're not. I can attest to that.
uh, or overreact. I don't get wigged out over things like this, but I went, I've got breast cancer. I know it already. And they came out to me and they said, Terry, we spotted something. We want to do a sonogram. And I'm like, okay, yep. And we scheduled one. It was a couple weeks later. And I went, and I've had enough of them to know. And I'm looking, and I'm watching as she's scanning. And there in the right breast was this huge mass. And I've seen cysts before. And I saw that and I went, oh, that's not good. She goes, well, and you know, the standard answer, I'm just a
Right.
I can't read them. I said, you don't have to read it. It's okay. And so again, I was left in the waiting room a little longer than usual. And the radiologist came in and she said, I think we need to take a look at that and do a biopsy. And so we scheduled that. And I went and had the biopsy done. And sure enough, it came back cancerous. And my
So hold
oncologist,
on a minute.
yeah,
Hold on a minute, because I know that you're going through this because you're on the other side of it, but can you think about in that moment, even though in the waiting room, you sort of had already concluded that you had breast cancer, but now the radiologist has confirmed that this is
right.
suspicious, we need to look at it. What were your emotions? What were you feeling? What were you thinking?
The first thing that I thought of was, well, thank God I stopped taking that medicine. Had I continued the regimen and continued on and had my mammogram and was still on the medicine, and now you have to realize we are already 5 months past stopping it. If I already had the cancer, what would 5 more months do? What
Mm.
level would that taken me to?
Right,
Um,
because you were
my
having it faithfully every year. You were doing your mammogram and nothing was spotted the year prior. And so it grew pretty
instant,
quickly.
it grew quickly. And it
Mm.
was so um easy to get rid of. Okay, it was easy to get rid of. So that's all that went through my mind is thank God I got that thank God for you know, for just whatever happened in September. Thank you for doing this for me, because I knew it wasn't my time. It may have been their time, it wasn't my time.
Yeah.
So at
There,
first,
you're talking about the girls,
the girls, the
talking
sisters,
about the girls.
the sisters.
Okay. Okay.
So I went to the oncologist. I went home. I told my family, you know, and I said, and they're like freaking out. And I'm like, it's going to be okay. We're catching it early enough. And there was absolutely no doubt in my mind that I would go with the more aggressive approach because of my illnesses and everything else, that aggressive in this regard was better than wait and see, hormonal treatments. It just was not worth it. And so I made the decision.
I want to take a second though, because I just think this is just a tall tale of the strong woman that you are. You were the one that had the right to be freaking out, but yet it was the family that you announced the discovery to, right? The news to, that needed to be calmed down by you, who was going to be going through this journey. So that's a testament, a true testament to your strength. And
Yeah.
of course,
Yeah.
I know that, but maybe the audience out there just needs to hear that if you're the strong one and you have to calm your family down when you get this kind of news, I guess it's okay. So,
I mean, I was
goodness.
nervous to be wrong, you know, but I just, you know, you know, my faith and my decision pulls me through. And I know that I have a great support team. So, you know, that helps as well. But
Yeah.
when the oncologist, you know, she talked to me about the very few options I had, I said, and she told me, she said, you know, the type of cancer that you have is multifocal. And I said, and that means what? And she said, well, just because we didn't detect anything in the left breast, there could be something underneath. And that's when I said, take them both. And she said, okay. She said, you know, the decision's yours. We can remove one and then keep an eye on the other. And I went, nope, take them both. I'm not going to go through that twice and maybe even have worse come after. And I was, again, a wise decision on my part. When they removed the breasts and I came out of the surgery, she said there was a mass underneath that wasn't detected on a sonogram or on the mammogram, and it was in the left breast as well. I was
Look at
sick.
that.
My lymph nodes were clean. I didn't have to have them taken.
That's
But
wonderful.
yeah, but one and not the other, who knows, that could have spread to the lymph nodes, and it just could have caused more issues, more problems.
So was that the rationale then behind, even though it was just detected in one, to take both?
Mhm. Yep,
And it almost sounds like you didn't have any hesitation.
I did not at
Did
all.
you plan that in advance then of even the visit?
No, but I resolved to it. I
Okay.
came to resolve that that could be what has to happen. And I was totally comfortable with it. I had absolutely no qualms over it. I'm still me, you know.
You
They
are.
were
I can attest to that.
they were great while I had them. They had their time. They served
Oh my
me well, child, and it was their time. It was not my time.
And I'm thankful for that for certain. I'm sure there are many, many, many. I know there are many others that are too. So,
I
all right.
also
What?
I I
Go ahead.
also went through, because I was concerned for my family and my daughter, my future grandchildren, and my, I was concerned for them to see if it was genetic, even though my mom didn't have it. So I went through the genetic testing, and all of it came back negative. Over 300 strands were tested, and that is how unlikely I was to get cancer. No
So, you know,
BRCA,
that
and
even, to me, that solidifies that it was medically induced from the medications that you were on.
100%. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the scariest part? So now you found out, you've agreed that, you're going to say goodbye to the girls. What was the next step, and walk through that process, because that's where the hard stuff came in.
Yeah, the hard stuff comes in then. You then have to decide on whether or not you'll have reconstructive surgery. If it's something you want to do. If not, then you still have, I wasn't large breasted, but you still have skin removal if you go with absolutely no reconstruction. There's still a lot of planning on the after, as you know, I had my grandchildren in the house with me. We have animals. I had to, my single girlfriend who has a spare bedroom, said, "You'll come and recuperate at my house, because you really do, when you have that breast removal, you need quiet, you need calm. Nobody can jump on you. You can't lift things." And that was all kind of hard for me. That
Mhm.
was the tougher part, believe it or not, because it's hard not to be yourself, right? Not to just
Yeah.
jump back into your activity. So that was a little hard. And then I'll be honest, it was not, it was painful. But that I didn't know how painful it would be, of course, until afterwards.
Sure. And I guess every person's reaction to the reconstruction, the stretching, and all the steps that you go through is going to be different. Because I know that you have a very high pain tolerance.
Hmm.
And when I saw you, I thought, yeah, this must really be off the charts. And listen, the audience, I'm not trying to scare you,
No, in no
because
way.
everybody is different, but this is real life, and this is truth that's getting spoken into you. So I'm going to tell it. Terry is going to tell it the way that she experienced it. So, and I really, really thank you for that. So now you're post-op 5 years.
I am going in my 5th year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did
And
you feel,
I'm
let me
sorry.
ask you real quick, did you feel, as you were going through that, did you ever have any thoughts that crossed your mind that now I'm less of a woman, or, I'm not worthy to be loved, or insecurities, or anything like that?
Not at all. Not even
Oh,
for,
good.
there is reason to feel that way. It didn't make me any less of a woman. It certainly didn't take away anything from my character. The way that I looked at it was, well, thank goodness I had the opportunity to get rid of the cancer. That's how I viewed them as cancer at that point. And they had to
Okay.
go, and they had to
So
go.
that's the perspective, that I want to share with the audience. If anybody is ever delivered this news, the perspective that Terry is sharing, I think, is one of beauty and of self-acceptance, that, the girls don't make or break you, and you are still who you are. So I just really want that to be sinking in to the psyche of our audience, in the event that they know someone that's going through this, or they themselves have been through it or have to go through it in the future. Only the Lord knows. But anyway, that's a beautiful perspective.
It
So
is
thank you.
the truth, and it's the truth of all of us. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what size they are. It doesn't matter, whether you decide not to reconstruct or to have the reconstructive surgery. To be quite honest with you, there was a time afterwards where I was like, wow, why did I even bother doing that? And one of the deciding factors, this may sound crazy, but I still like getting in a bathing suit. And I thought, I don't want to have to wear those special top bathing suit tops. So we'll just go ahead and reconstruct, and that way I have something to bathing suit top. Other than that, that was the only real deciding factor on it.
Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. So being 5 years past, what is something that you would share with the audience that would bring hope in the event that maybe they just heard this news, or maybe they're sensing something, or they have felt a lump? Just, speak a word of wisdom and hope. What would you say to that woman who may experience this and walk through it?
Don't give up, because always hope. There's always a treatment. And if you feel, or they tell you that you're in later stages and so forth, have them remove all that they can. They're not removing you. They're just ridding you of the cancer. And if that gives you more time here, then that's what you should do. If you want that time, I just wouldn't rule it out because you feel like you'll be less of a woman or a human being without your breasts. They don't define you.
Oh, that's very good. That's very good. And you're, again, it didn't remove the honoriness. I
No,
will say that. So her personality is intact. Her cleverness, her wit. I mean, who she is still intact. So I think that's a wonderful word of encouragement that you just shared. And the fact that you just listened to that still small voice, because many of us will feel this thing and we don't know what it is. We can't define it. We can't put words to it, but we ignore it. We don't pay attention to it. And then later on, we realize, you know what? I was warned. I just didn't know where it was coming from. And so I didn't pay attention to it. And then it ends up costing us. But, I think that what you have shared is really going to enlighten someone who is listening. It will help women who maybe are supporting somebody who is going through this. So before we close out, I do want you to share, as far as the support that you had, because you had a very dear friend who nursed you. What would you say about the importance of having a support system in place?
Oh, it's extremely important. It's second to your decision. I had, of course, I've had, Jan, who took me in, and everyone who visited me and made sure I was checked in on during the day. When I came back home, I had, of course, Jimmy, my husband, who constantly there for me, my daughter Brittany, even my grandchildren, who I waited on hand and foot, and they were just young, would do whatever they could for me. Mom, are you okay? Do you still have boo-boos? Just little things like that. It makes a world of difference. And for those who are single, you're not alone. Reach out. There are so many groups out there that would help. I would volunteer to help, and be there for people who are single and don't have the family around them. Because I know how important it is post surgeries and treatments, to have someone there just to understand what you're going through.
Oh, that's wonderful. So in case you didn't catch that, Terry said that if you don't have a support system, you get news like this and you are looking or seeking for it, then you can reach out to her. And we're not going to post her information on here, but what I would say is send a note to the Chasing Easy podcast that you would like to talk to Terry, and then I'll make sure we get you in touch so that you have that, because it's really critical. You can't go through something like this on your own. It's just not,
No,
it's not healthy.
nope, it
All
isn't.
right.
And it'll lend to the success of your treatments, no matter what it
Yeah.
is.
And then you had mentioned that your faith was strong. So can you imagine going through something like that and not having faith?
Nope.
Not having, you mentioned hope, don't give up.
Well,
But
but I think your faith drives your hope.
that's very true. All right. Well,
So,
thank you so much,
thank
girlfriend. And, again, I think this is really going to be important for the listening audience. And look, you guys, share this again, hashtag Chasing Easy, share it with family and friends. If you know a woman that maybe is going through this or just got the news, share the podcast so that it can bring some light into the situation, that you can survive through this on the other side. For those that maybe have lost their life to breast cancer, our prayers go out to the family that's left behind for that. And we're so sorry. But for those that can catch it early enough, God bless you. And Terry, thank you again so much for your willingness to be vulnerable and to share this. And I just know that you're gonna bring some hope into some women that need it. So,
I hope so.
thanks again.
Thank you. Love you.
All right, love you too. Bye.
Bye.
All right, don't hang up.
Okay.
Oh no.